How did Joe Manno, the grandson of a mafia godfather, get the gangster to repent and accept God as his savior? Why is Joe spending his own money, giving away books to children? And is Joe as good a dancer as he thinks he is? Let's find out.
This is what I'm going to do. I always like to start the show off with what I know how to do best, and that is dance. I'm one of the most amazing dancers that have ever lived on the planet Earth. Wait for it! Wait, you think it's easy? Okay. Let's see if I can get some people up here to try my dance. On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3, go! What grade do you teach? 3rd. She started off like this, watch. And then she wanted to add a little spice to it, and she went like this. The moral of the story is this. If you always are worried about becoming somebody else, then you're going to miss who the amazing people that you're supposed to be. We have 6 people that came up on the stage. Each one of them did the dance their own way. They all entertained you, not because of what I taught them, but because of who they are. You did a great job. Give them a big round of applause.
I grew up in an Italian Catholic family. We lived with my grandfather till I was 16 years old. He was the mafia boss. He was the Don Corleone. He was the big boss in St. Louis. And our lifestyle was just as that. So the beautiful thing is he never took his work home with him. So we only knew the one side of him, which was the loving side. He's a very loving man. And there was a lot of love in my family. Constant encouragement. I was the firstborn, and they just continued to instill in me. I think they built me up a little too much. Right. But what it did was it showed me what happens when you do build somebody up and you speak confidence over them, you speak good things into them. And that's what we do with the kids. So that upbringing, even though it was negative per se in the eyes of the world, it was that love that they gave to me that I was able to turn around and give to somebody else. So when I stood on that stage, my dad would tell me all the time, son, there's nobody like you. You're one of a kind. You're a leader, not a follower. That's the premises of our whole show. That's the premises of our life. And that's what we instill in literally hundreds and hundreds of thousands of kids, is that very message right there. And when they start believing that, they feel about themselves the same way I feel about myself. So you understand, I'm not putting something out there and wondering if it's going to work. I'm putting it out there based on experience. When I was a little kid, I was sat down with my mom and I watched Cecil B. DeMille's The 10 Commandments. And I remember I wasn't even 10 years old. And I said to her, is that real? And she said, well, that's in the Bible, that's real. Yeah. And at that moment, I became a Jesus freak, literally. And I was the most unusual child, where I prayed all day long. I prayed in school. They called my teachers. And everybody in my family, they used to call me Father Joe. And I said, no, I'm going to get married someday. So, you see, I wasn't going to be a priest or anything like that. So my grandfather watched me. And there were 3 things that I never did that are very prevalent with being involved with the mob. I never drank. I never cursed. And my wife was my first. Mm-hmm. He couldn't understand that. It just made no sense to my grandfather whatsoever. Right. So we were at his house one time. He was 85 years old. I was living in California, and I came back to visit. And he was sitting on the sofa. I turned around and looked at him, and his eyes were all teared up. I said, what's the matter, Grandpa? Mm-hmm. And he said, I'm just looking at you, son. And if I could do my life all over again, I would do it just like you. And the next day, he called the church, and he had the priest come over to the house. What was he going to say? No. The priest comes over to the house, and he just repents of his life. Wow. He repents of his life, and he turned his life to Jesus. And it was just the most amazing moment. He died 3 years later. But it's funny because I was supposed to take over the family business. Mm-hmm. And I said no. And because of that, there was a few other mob bosses that came after that, but it whittled off. Yeah. And from there, it went away, and it doesn't even exist anymore today. So it was a great ending of a story. But that's how my grandfather came to know the Lord. And that's my mom, my dad, my brother, my sister, their family, everybody came to the side. And it wasn't through anything that was said, it was just through the way you live.
So you're a mob killer?
I'm a mob killer, yes. I'm a mob killer. That's good, I like that.
So it's not easy to fill an auditorium full of kids, and even more difficult to get them to laugh and learn. How did you get started going down this road?
Well, it started in 1988, to be honest with you. And the priest at my church said, you need to go to a detention center and just entertain the kids. And I went there, and they were these literally detention center, prison for kids, and these kids were just lost, just completely lost.
What were you talking to them about?
I just hang out with them.
Okay.
You just hang out with them, but they were not receptive to anything. But it was a year later when the Red Ribbon campaign kicked off in California, and I was doing stand-up comedy at the time.
And what was the Red Ribbon campaign?
Red Ribbon campaign started it was called A Drug-Free America, and it was an anti-drug campaign, and they needed a guest speaker, and there was an assemblyman that was going to speak. He got called away to the San Francisco earthquake. I was supposed to talk for 5 minutes. Well, they called us up and they said, can Joe do a whole hour? I'm like, a whole hour with kids? Are you kidding me? They'll throw tomatoes at me.
Right.
So I went out in my car and I put together in 15 minutes the show that we still do today. And all I did was the same comedy I did for adults, but at the very end of the comedy, I added the message.
You said you were out in California. I believe after high school you acted before you did any of what you're doing now,
Right.
correct?
Yes.
How did that come about, and how did you go from being an actor until being who you are now, doing your own one man?
That's a great question, Terry. I was out in California and I got success right away. In other words, it wasn't as much of a struggle as people said. I had met the right people. I got on a TV show called Cagney and Lacey and Trapper John MD. These are old shows back in the 80s. And from there I got immediately a lead in a movie. In the 80s there were these horror slasher films. And I had a lead in one of them, and it was a 3-picture deal. But it didn't work well after the first picture. And when I watched the show and I saw the movie, they had put stuff in that film that it wasn't pleasing to me. I realized at that point, I have no control over what's on that page. And the only thing that I can control is what I write. And nobody's gonna hire me if I wanna write something. I'm a 20-something-year-old kid. So I began to put comedy together because I could control that. And the comedy led from this to this to this to this, and then from there, that's when the phone call came about the children. And I did the shows for the kids, ages 8 years old to 13. And it just kept going and going and going. And it was just part-time. And then I wrote a book series called A Fighting Chance. And A Fighting Chance, I play the character so it's relatable to the children. And from the book series...
Is the TV a takeoff of what's in the book, or is it separate? How does that work?
It's totally separate, but same concept. It's called All in One.
Right.
Its reason it's called All in One is because there's 6 main characters and I play all of them.
Very careful with the holding. Don't move. Good inside it. Love your feet, kids.
Looking good, Pally. Looking good.
Hello, Mr. Miller. Oh, he's loose.
Here we go. Here we go. 1, 2.
Do you mind if I watch for a while?
No, stand over there just in case Frankie break loose. You never know, not likely, but if he does, it could be a mess. Drive it in. You gotta kind of maneuver around him, you know?
What's the matter, child?
Not a good day for Roman here. He didn't make the basketball team for the 2nd year in a row, and they cut him from a select band as well. He thinks he's good for nothing.
No. He's gonna help you with the food tonight. He's gonna sign pictures for the little boys and girls for free, like Mama teach him.
Right.
And the 6 characters the beautiful thing about that show is you have adult teachers, which are the characters, and you have the children. And whatever problem that the child is going through, whatever challenge that the child is going through,
Right.
one of the adults is going through the same thing.
Listen, heard you didn't make the team with a band either. I'm gonna tell you that that's okay. I had a few I had a few setbacks in my life too.
So you watch both of them overcome it. and realize that at any age there's challenges, and at any age they can be overcome. But again, it's all set to comedy, and it's not set to how do you say it? More of it's not a teaching. It's not like you don't even know it's happening. It's just a story that plays out. Yes.
That guy's really funny, and like he always acts for everyone, and he's like a really good role model for people, and he actually tells everyone real stuff and good stories.
So there is a difference between our TV show All in One and our live show and the books, but yet they all create the same message.
And there's one character, well, it seems to be looming over All in One, which to me was Jerry Lewis.
Okay, we are complete. Now, if I could just use some of your help, this would wonderfully be. You are just. Could you just? I need you to. I need the chair. I don't sit on the table here. This is. Could I the chair? Just put the foot here, cross them, put the hand like this, and other one up, like there we go. Now, if I could you step here, stand up here, and just put this leg here. Don't move, because you hold it. Hold it right here. Very gently. Hold it very gently. Take the other hand, hold it just in case the falling takes place. It's because sound is, we gotta put this just like the... Beautiful. You need to hold still. Look, this is gonna be... I say, hello, Father. This is Julius. Yeah, Julius. Yes. Father, no, Julius. Your son. Yes. No. Hello, Dad.
And I think you would invoke his spirit. Do you want to talk about his influence on you?
Yes. Jerry Lewis was, I used to sit and, I had goofy voices when I was a little kid.
Right.
And my mom said to me, she said, you need to watch this man that's on TV.
Right.
And it was Martin Lewis.
Right.
And I sat down and I watched him. And I remember as a young kid, I was so intrigued with the way his facial movements and his voice and the way he would talk, that it was just very simple to just emulate that and impersonate that. And I did it when I was in high school. I did it once, and it got a great response. There's always a flair of that character in one of the characters that I play, if not most of them. But it's kind of funny because it's timeless. And
right.
if I'm young or old, it doesn't make a difference because comedy has no age barrier to it, and kids enjoy it. The funny thing is I did these one of the characters in one of our live shows, and I got an email from a kid later on that week, and he said, I'm watching TV with my parents, and there's a man on television impersonating you. So I thought, wow, that's how long it's been since Jerry's been in the limelight.
And it seems that my hand slipped.
Oh no, excuse me for interrupting there, buddy, but you see, you've got to keep this arm up there at all times, because in order to get that clear swing, you've got to keep moving out. Keep that arm stiff, keep swing bent, clear on. He's not well. And you just swing complete through, keep the eye on the ball, follow it through, and then swing it around. Get away from me.
What we have found out through process of elimination, trial and error, is it's not what you say, it's the fun you have with the audience.
Right.
And that's Jerry's comedy. And that kind of just felt natural to me, so it was very easy for me to adapt some of his abilities and his comedic humor.
Now, he's looking at Daniel. Daniel's looking at Dominic. Dominic's looking at Daniel. And rather than walk away, they take violence to the next level. They give each other the look. And the look looks like this. Daniel looks at Dominic and he's like... Dominic looks back at him and he's like... Nobody lets it go. All of a sudden, the brain starts to speak to them. It says, walk away, boys. It's not going to end well. But do they listen? no. All of a sudden, Daniel does the walkover. And that's why the walkover looks so goofy, because the brain and the body are not working together with each other. So Daniel walks over and it looks like this. Now, Dominic's looking at Daniel. Daniel's looking at Dominic. Dominic's looking at Daniel. Where is Mrs. O? She's in the faculty room getting herself a cup of coffee. So now, all of a sudden, Daniel and Dominic are staring at each other, and they're going to take violence to the next level. And what is that? They're going to begin to speak negatively to each other. Neither one of them walk away. So Daniel's looking at Dominic, Dominic, Daniel, Daniel, Dominic, Dominic, Daniel. All of a sudden, Daniel looks at Dominic and he says, "What? Yeah!" Dominic looks back at him and goes, Daniel's like, "Yeah!" Dominic's like, "Oh!" Daniel's like, I got the With that, Mrs. O walks in the room.
His comedy definitely, and it's not been built on me. It's been built on helping others. So yeah, he has made an impact, whether he's known it or not.
I want to just take just a moment, just give you kind of a serious story about gangs and bullying and how it ties it in together. And there I was in Sylmar, California. I go to this detention center. Prison for kids. Now, detention centers are like, I walk in this place, you guys, and it's like a room down a hallway. I'm supposed to talk to all these kids, and they have these closets that I found out later on. They're not closets, they were prison cells where the kids stayed. Randy was in this room, and Randy had been thrown in there because when he was, well, first of all, he was shaking on his bed like this when the guy was coming to lock the door. And he said, "Son, are you okay?" He says, "I'm fine, leave me alone." He said, "No, you're shaking. Are you having a seizure?" He said, "I'm fine, I'm getting out tomorrow, leave me alone." So he closed the door. Well, the security guard found out Randy was 14 years old. He had been in a gang since he was 11. Why would anybody join a gang at 11 years old? You know why? Because he was in school like you guys. Some of you are 11 in here, I know Joe is. Kids in his school made fun of him. They teased him, they made fun of the way he looked, they made fun of the way he acted, and guess what? You know, they were all laughing when they made fun of Randy, but it was hurting Randy inside. Some of you may have experienced that kind of stuff. What you don't realize is there's nobody like you anywhere on the face of this earth. You're one of a kind, you're on this earth for a reason, and you make a difference. I want you to say that with me. Say, "There's nobody like me. There's nobody like me. Anywhere on earth. I am one of a kind. I'm on this earth for a reason. And I make a difference." Randy didn't know that. He did not know that. So he went home to his neighborhood, and there were these guys there, about 19 or 20, and they were gangbangers, and they said, "Why don't you come and join our gang? You join our gang, and we will love you more than your own family loves you." He said, "That's what I want." So he joins this gang at 11 years old. He's 12, he goes into detention center for a few days for vandalizing. Now he's 14 years old, and he's in for an assist to a robbery. So he's getting out. What happens? He's shaking. Why is he afraid to get out tomorrow? Because he doesn't want to be in the gang anymore. He's done being in the gang. So he gets out, and he goes to his two guys and said they would love him more than his own family loved him. I know, right? And the guy, he walks up and goes, "I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm out." And the guy looked at him and he goes, "Really?" Puts his hand on Randy's chest. This is a true story. It's not easy for me to say, and I've said it so many times, but it's still hard. When Randy feels the guy's hand come on his chest, he feels on the back of his head. The other guy, he feels the barrel of a 12-gauge shotgun pointing to the back of his head. Now, if somebody loves you more than your own family, I don't care how many arguments you get into with your parents, they're never going to put a gun to the back of your head. So that was lie number one. And the guy in front of him says, "You want to leave us? Okay, bye." He walks away. The guy behind him pulls the trigger and kills Randy. He's 14 years old. He's dead. He'll never drive a car. He'll never get married. He'll never have kids. He'll never graduate. He'll never enjoy summer. He'll never do anything. Why? Because he's dead. Why is he dead? Because when he was 11 years old, people bullied him with their mouths. Nobody got suspended. Nobody hit him. It was a bully here. Why did he join the gang? Because he was bullied.
Let me see you wobble. Like jello, jello.
Joe is funny and he's great, and I love him. was awesome, and he's very funny, and I think everybody enjoyed it, especially the lessons of bullying in our school.
South Africa we've made two trips there, and we're probably looking to go back again. A total of about 10,000 kids with both trips.
How is this funded? I mean, where does the money come from to do this? Because you're not paying out of your own pocket, correct?
We did at first.
You did?
Yes,
wow,
we did.
Fantastic.
Yeah, when we did the Amway show, when you tell a sponsor we're going to fill the Amway Center, they're like, okay, sure.
Now, how many seats is the Amway?
16,000.
16,000.
16,000 seats. So the Amway Center, when Anthony books a show today, if we book the Amway Center, which is 16,000 seats, but we break it down to 10,000 because we put the stage at the one end, and it takes him anywhere from 48 to 72 hours to book the whole show, and it's filled that fast. And we could do it 3-4 times, just constant.
How did you get started?
1997, I met Anthony DeRosa.
Mm-hmm.
He worked with Nickelodeon.
Right.
Behind the scenes.
The fact that everything that we do for these school kids and these education systems is free, we need sponsors to do what we do. No books can be given out, no venues can be rented, no children can come to the performances. None of that stuff can happen without sponsors.
We don't charge them for the buses, for the books, for the arenas. We don't charge them. The schools can't afford it.
And if we can get sponsors to sponsor the books, then we give them away to the kids. But the first time, nobody wanted to sponsor, so we paid for them all ourselves.
Wow, you guys are really generous.
Yeah, maybe some people just don't call it not too smart.
Yeah.
But we gave away 30,000 books that we paid for every one of them. And it was quite a nut, let me tell you.
Yeah.
But it was the greatest seed we could ever sow.
Mm-hmm.
It was that first one, and then from there it kind of went from there.
And how much work is it to get the sponsors? I mean, that's a lot of sponsors, a lot of money to do all these things. I would assume.
That's the hard. If you want to put the challenge on from 1 to 10, it's 1 through 10. Is getting a sponsor, and the reason is this: everybody loves kids,
right.
But they want to put their money somewhere else. That
Right.
makes sense. And when you look at a child, and you see this little child at 8 years old, or 9, or 10, or 12 years old, and they're innocent, people see them like that forever. But if you fast forward that kid just standing behind bars,
Right.
it makes sense. But we can't. Our sponsors and people that watch, they can't see that. And the teachers in schools have even said, so many people, this is what they say, this is just not my thing.
Right.
It's not my thing. They're wrapped up in their thing, like we're wrapped up in our thing. So if we can get people to see 10 years down the road, we would have more finances than we know what to do with. Because the challenge is, there's $726 billion a year that taxpayers use that is used from taxpayers' money just to fix problems in people. And it's all caused because nobody took care of the vaccination, which is when they're down here at the 5, 6, 7, 8 through 13. Once they hit 13, their minds are formed.
On your website, do you have a way that individuals can go to sponsor you if they wanted to?
Oh yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
They can do that.
JoeManno.com or RTCentertainment.com. It's just got a big old button, support, and people support us. We have what's called pillars, and
Right.
pillars support us $10 a month, and it's an automatic deduction, and we have pillars that do that. People give one-time donations for that, but it keeps us going. It's the gas in our car, as we call it.
It's the little ones that add up.
Oh yeah. No, the big donors, they come and go, but the little ones are the ones that make every month happen.
Why don't you take what you're doing and go to something that'll make you a lot more money instead of just worrying about the kids?
Well, that's a really good question. It's a really simple answer, and that is the reason we're doing what we're doing is because the ones that are after the money are creating the issues and the problems that we have today. So we're competing against the media and the shows that you see on TV and the children's shows that you see on TV that are drawing kids totally to a materialistic world rather than a who they are world, and we have to fight against that.
2 tennis courts,
30 bathrooms,
full-size baseball field,
10 kitchens,
antique furniture,
90,000 square feet.
Oh my God.
No, that's not my room. That's my closet.
No way.
Nothing's really normal about this life.
She knows we need to cut back, but she's still compulsive.
I guess the answer to the question is I really don't want to be part of the problem. I'd rather be part of the solution.
Okay, good. And what about working with the homeless and the hungry?
The homeless and the hungry. We did a show at the Hard Rock Live where we had 2,000 kids, and half of the audience was homeless. And we fed them 43 tons of food they took home to their families. They became the star that day. They brought home the food for their whole family, their brothers or sisters, their mother, their father, for a whole week. And we also gave away 6 cars to the to the families, 6 different families, of course. It was all through our sponsors. We get the sponsors to donate the cars, we get the organization in Orlando that donated the food, and it just, at the end of the day, it was an amazing day for these kids. And the beautiful thing is the kids were the ones that blessed the parents. It wasn't the parents that did it on their own.
A two-part question. Did your religious background, I mean, I guess this is kind of obvious, but I'll ask it anyway. Did your religious background have an influence of you working with kids? And what role does God and faith and religion have in your movie and television career? Absolutely everything. There's a scripture in the Bible that says, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. If you don't fear God, when fear doesn't mean afraid of. The word fear means to reverence Him, to respect Him, and to honor Him. And when you honor God and you respect God, then your decisions that you make are based on that rather than the pleasing of the flesh. So every decision that I make, every joke that I write, everything I agree to put my name to has got to line up biblically with the Word of God. And if it doesn't line up with the Bible, then I just simply pass it by and wait for something that does, or create something myself that will work that way. So the answer to that question is, God is everything. It's first and foremost in my life, in my wife's life, in my children's life, in my family's life, and I hope that other people can see that as well.